something like that would be something like Shopify or Squarespace or something along those lines. Some of you may have a website like that, or others of you may have a website like Wix or Weebly or just any type of website where you maybe have just a couple of products that you sell online. If there's anybody who's online with us right now in this webinar who has nothing like that, that's perfectly fine too, because what I'm going to do is share with you some of the ways that you can sell products, such as this pen, which is what I use as an example, how you can sell products online on Google without even having an e-commerce website, and sometimes without even having any website. So I'm going to show you all of that good stuff. Now, here today, we're going to talk about a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to go into why is it really critical to have some type of online presence? I think most of us, certainly those of you who chose to join today's webinar, probably understand that. But I'm going to talk about that just a little bit. Now, keep in mind, then I'm going to talk about how you may be able to showcase your products if your business qualifies for a business profile on Google. After that, I'm going to talk about the Google Merchant Center, which is a tool, which is a free tool, which is kind of like the gateway between your products you have to sell and Google's online experience where strangers can find your products to buy. Then I'm going to touch super briefly about Shopify and simply use that as an example of how you can use the Google Merchant Center to automatically have your products show up on your Shopify site and back and forth. And then don't worry, I know that some of the things I'm going to be talking about here today may seem like new information for you. At the end of my conversation with you, I'm going to share with you some free resources that you can use to get even better results. So let's start off talking about why sell online. And again, I appreciate the fact that since you are here in today's webinar, you probably are already interested in selling online. But there are a couple of things that are important to keep in mind. Do you know what? I realized I'm not sharing my screen. So let me share my screen with you. Just bear with me for a second. There we go. So I'm sharing my screen. And you know what? Just bear with me one more moment because I'm going to turn on, just so you know, if you see my head turn here, that's because my camera is here and my slides are over here. So I'm going to turn on my captions. There you go. So if there's anybody who prefers to read along, you can absolutely see the captions as well. So let me go back to where I was. Here we go. You know, what's really interesting is obviously we know that lots of people love online shopping. I am the first person to say I am the online shopping queen. However, what's really interesting is 60% of people will go online first, but oftentimes what they're doing is they're gathering information because oftentimes they actually want to then make the buying decision in their local store. Sometimes people want to make that decision because they know that if they go to the store, even the product's going to be there or it's not going to be there. Right now, we live in this kind of crazy world. We've all heard about all of these supply chain issues where, you know, if we order a product, we're not really 100% certain if or when we're going to get it. If we find a product we like online, if we walk into our local store, we know we can buy it that day, take it home, wrap it up and give it to our loved one for the holidays without having to worry about, is it actually going to show up? In fact, the other thing that's really interesting is 45% of shoppers want to actually complete that transaction online and then travel to the store simply for store pickup. You know, it feels like it's kind of we don't even need to say that we're in this crazy COVID world where we hope that we're getting out of it, but we may not be. And every time we turn on the news, we get different information. But one of the things that's been a really interesting silver lining, is, at least for me, about this crazy COVID world that we are in, is consumers in your local community are getting more and more comfortable shopping with businesses that maybe they hadn't discovered before. People are so much more comfortable actually making a shopping purchase online with a business that they haven't heard before, or they're much more willing to do business with somebody in their local community. And one of the reasons for that is there is so much focus right now on how small businesses in our local communities are really kind of struggling. And so people want to support you, but they want to support you in a way that's convenient for them. That's why things like store pickup, curbside pickup is really popular right now. And my hunch is that's not going to go away anytime in the near future. What's interesting here is a global survey said that 58% of purchases were sparked by somebody saw something online. Maybe it was something they saw on YouTube. Maybe it was an advertisement that they saw. Maybe they were just looking for something as basic as, what do I get my grandmother this holiday season? And then maybe they landed on your website. That's a big number, 58%. The other thing that's good to know is 46% of shoppers, they want to confirm inventory before they go and visit your physical store if you have one. And again, that's simply because nobody wants to spend the time driving off to a retail store only to find that the product that they want is not there. So that alone could help you increase your sales if you have a physical store. So the takeaway for all of these numbers is you do need to get your products online, whether you have a full-blown e-commerce site like Shopify or Squarespace, or if you have no type of online presence, but you want to drive people to your local store. Either way, you absolutely can take advantage of the tools that Google has to offer in order to grow your business, especially this holiday season, but into 2022 and ultimately beyond. So these are different places where your products can show up on Google. Now, what's interesting is the average online shopping journey has over 140 touch points, meaning there are a lot of different places and a lot of different ways people can find your products online. And each one of those different touch points influences what people buy and who do they choose to buy it from. So what you see in the slide here, that's just a couple of the touch points that Google has for consumers in the United States. And we're going to go into what all of these things mean. So this includes your basic Google search, which is I'm just going online to google.com and I'm searching for either this particular black ballpoint pen, or I'm searching for a gift for my husband. What do I get the man that has everything? Those are the types of searches people will go online for. The other thing that sometimes people can find are shopping ads. We'll get into that briefly in a moment. There is something called the Google Shopping tab, which you may or may not be familiar with. I'll get into that as well. Google Lens is a brand new feature that Google has that's actually in beta, so I'll talk about that. Google Images are places where people can find your products, as well as on your Google business profile. So let's start off by talking about your business profile that can help your organization show up on Google Search and Maps. Now, there is something that's important to understand about this tool. Your business profile is a 100% free tool. However, it's not available to every type of business. This tool helps you have a presence on Google Search and Maps. So if your business during normal times, and obviously we're in this still kind of weird time right now, but if in normal times you would see most of your customers face to face, this is a perfect tool for you. So if you have a retail store where people come to your store and they look at your products, they buy them and they take them away, this is perfect for you. If you have an online only store where you don't want to see your customers face to face, you just want them to go to your website, use their credit card, click here, buy now, and the product gets shipped to them, the business profile is not the best tool for you. But there are other ways that you can showcase your business, and I'll get into all of those in just a couple of minutes. Now, for all of the tools that we're talking about here today, you need to be in a Google account. So what is a Google account? At its easiest way to describe it is if you have a Gmail email address, you have a Google account. Now, there's a catch here. If you are like me and you have more than one Gmail email address, you have more than one Google accounts. When I was doing in-person presentations, which I haven't done in a year and a half because of COVID, inevitably somebody would walk up to me after my presentation was over and they would say, Pamela, I had all of this stuff on Google. Now it's gone. Why did Google make my stuff disappear? Folks, Google doesn't make your stuff disappear. 99% of the time when somebody would say that to me, it was because they set up some of their Google tools, such as their business profile or their advertisements or something else, in one Google account. And then somewhere over the course of time, they flipped over to a different Google account. Sometimes people have one email address they use for business and a different email address they use for personal. Now, if you have what is called a Google Workspace account, which is what used to be called G Suite, Google rebranded that not too long ago, that is also considered a Google account. If you don't have a Google account and the last thing you want is another email address, don't worry. You can go to accounts.google.com/sign up, and you can sign up for a Google account using whatever email address you currently like to use, whether it's Yahoo or AOL or whatever it is. You can use that as a Google account. The Google account is basically just the key that unlocks all of the tools that you want for Google. The good thing is you need just that one key to get into all of these tools that I'm going to be talking about here today. So for those of you that have a business profile, if you have those products to sell, you can simply go into the back end of your profile, click on products, click on add product. Then what you would do is upload a photo of the product and a description of it. Depending on how many products you have, you might have different categories of products. If you have a lot of them, you might have, a category perhaps of office supplies, and maybe you've got your pen, you've got a pencil, and maybe you've got a desk pad or something along those lines. You may have different types of products. So use what makes sense for you. You can set the price for the product or the price range, because as we know, sometimes different versions of products have different prices on them. You can add a description of that product, and then you can actually add a button that says something like order online or buy now. And people, when they find that product, they can click on it and go ahead and complete that transaction with you. So again, that's only available to people that have businesses that during normal times would see people face to face. That's what the business profile is all about. Now, what's interesting is once you have products on your business profile, then if people are searching for a business like yours in your local community, they may find your profile with your products, click on the button, and they can go ahead and purchase those products from you. Now, again, that works best for people that are trying to sell their products simply to people in their local community. For everybody else, the next section of what I'm going to be talking about applies to everybody, whether you have a local physical store or if you have an online presence. So let's talk about the Google Merchant Center. The Google Merchant Center is a free tool that you can use to organize your products so that way they can be shown on different places across Google, like I showed you earlier in the presentation. The Merchant Center, as I just said, I'm one step ahead of myself here. Let's talk about exactly where those particular products can show up on Google. First of all, when people go to Google and they do a regular search on Google, maybe they're doing a search for Caribbean spices, or depending on what your accent is, it may be Caribbean spices. And so people are doing a search result like that. What happens then is there may be pictures of products that show up at the very top of the page. All right, I see, Elizabeth, you just asked a question. I'll get into that in just a moment there, because you asked a good one. So what happens is those can be products that are available. And those are in Google's organic search results. And those typically include basic information about a product, such as the title of the product, a description, and link. But some search results can actually show a lot more. They can show what is called a rich snippet. And that is more details about a particular product that can help that product stand out. So that could be something like the price, or it could be the number of stars that are rated, or something like that. So that's one of the things that can show up in Google's organic search listings. All right, I'm going to pause for a second and go back to the business profile because Elizabeth just asked a good question. She said, are there product limitations to adding products to a Google store, such as alcohol, tobacco, etc.? Yes, there are certain qualifications for the type of information you can put on your business profile on Google. And what I will do, Elizabeth, is towards the end, and I'll just make a note to myself here, I'll share in the chat a link to where you can find information about what types of businesses qualify for that business profile. All right, I'll try to remember to do that at the end of the conversation here today. So that's where one place that your products can show up. Now I'm back to the Google search results, is simply people do that general Google search. The next place where your products can show up is in something that's called the Google Shopping tab. And, you know, I've been using Google for a zillion years, and I've been speaking for Google for 4 years. And I've only actually recently started to become a really big user of the Google Shopping tab. And this you will find when you go to google.com and you do a search for anything. Typically, Google will present you with the organic search results. And that's where we all want our website to show up. Everybody wants your website to show up on the first page of Google. But if you go up to the very top of the screen, you'll see that there's a little tab there that says Shopping. There are a couple of other tabs, Maps and Images and News also. But if you click on the Shopping tab, you will go straight to a page that's dedicated to nothing but where you can buy that particular product. So what's great about that as a merchant is when people use that Shopping tab, there's another great way for your products to be displayed on Google through the Google Merchant Center. And I'm going to get into how to set up that Merchant Center in a couple of minutes. The other place where your product might show up is in the Images tab. And this can depend on how you have that set up. You can tell if the image is the results of a search that is related to a sale is if you look at that picture and you see that there'll be a little label on it that will typically say something like product on it. That's your signal as a searcher, the person that's looking for information, that, hey, if I click on that picture, I can go ahead and I can buy that from someplace. So your future customers can find that information if your products are listed out there as well. And that's something I recommend that after today's webinar is over, give that a try as you're doing your holiday shopping, and you may find, oh my gosh, there are all different kinds of opportunities there. The next tool that I have also become very entranced with recently here is a new tool that's actually in beta with Google, and it's called Google Lens. So what you can do with Google Lens is if you see a product that you like, whether it's maybe it's a shirt that somebody is wearing, or if it's something that you see in a physical magazine, you can take a picture of that with your phone through the Google application on your phone, and Google then will offer you places where you can get more information about that particular product. So that is fantastic. If you see something, when you're just out walking around on the streets and you're interested, hey, love that blouse, want to know how can I get that, take a picture of it, and then all of a sudden Google will let you know where you can find that. I have been in the process of renovating a house that I moved into a couple of months ago. And so now I'm all in the process of looking for lighting fixtures and curtains and all of that type of thing. I have been using Google Lens obsessively. And what it has done is taken me to online places where I can actually purchase the product that I might see in one of those, glossy consumer magazines. So it's a really fantastic tool. It is in beta, but if you haven't gotten to know this one yet, I definitely recommend you do, because more and more people are using it. So when you have your products available online, if other people see, this particular pen, where can I buy this? They take a picture of it. They can potentially end up on your website where they can buy that product from you. So that's a great tool as well. And then, of course, the other place where you can showcase your products online are with Google Ads. Now, I'm not going to spend very much time talking about ads here today, because I would much rather focus on all of the free tools that you can use to sell your products online. But as you can imagine, with shopping ads on Google, those are a paid tool. There are a variety of different ways that you can do online advertising with Google. With product ads, what you can do is showcase a product. It will be labeled as this is a product that people can buy or as an advertisement. When people click on it, they can go straight to wherever it is that you have your store, and they can go ahead and purchase that for you as well. So in order to run product ads or shopping ads on Google that have a picture of a product, you do need to use our friend that I keep talking about, the Google Merchant Center. And I'll go into all of that in just a moment as well. So this Google Merchant Center, as I mentioned when I first started talking, think of it as the gateway between your products that you might have in inventory and customers out there that you can work with who find you through the different Google tools that I just talked about. Once you upload your products to the Google Merchant Center, that's then where Google has a great way of showcasing your products. So that way you can really build that e-commerce presence that you want. Now, one of the things that's really great about this is you don't even need to have a website. And I'll get into that in just a moment here. To start setting up your Google Merchant Center account, you would simply go to g.co/merchant center. Of course, you do need to be in your Google account that I talked about here just a moment ago. Now, if you do already use some of the Google tools that we've talked about, such as your business profile or Google Ads, you do need to be sure that your Merchant Center account that you set up is in the same Google account that you use for your advertising or for your business profile. That way they'll all sync nicely together. So that's one of the things that's important to understand. The next thing that you would do is you would enter information about your business. And that's, starts with, of course, your business name. Now, you do want to be sure that the name that you put here is the name that you want consumers to recognize. Many of us have a formal name for our business. Maybe it's an LLC, or maybe you're an S Corp, or you're something like that. Be sure that whatever name you put here is the doing business as, or the friendly name that your customers will recognize. So that's one thing that I see a lot of people make that mistake. The next thing that you need to do is designate what country is your business headquartered in. I'm going to take a wild guess here and say that most of you that are online, if not everybody that's online with me, your business is headquartered in the United States. So that's pretty easy. And then you do simply need to say, what is your business time zone? That's only relevant just so that way when reports come to you, they'll be in your local time zone. Again, I'm going to guess that most of you probably are in Eastern time zone. But if you're in one of the other time zones, just designate the proper time zone for you. After that, then you determine where can people actually check out, go through the checkout process in order to buy your products. And this is the really cool part. They could potentially check out and buy the products on your website. That would make sense if you had something like a Shopify store or a Squarespace store, or if you have some other type of website that has that whole checkout process on it. In that case, if people do the Google search, maybe they find your product on Google Shopping, they would when they click on that product, they would go to your website and complete the checkout transaction there. The next thing that you can select is say that you want people to check out on Google. That's the case where you would use a service called Buy on Google to help people complete the transaction. Now, that is still kind of in pilot, but it is something which some people have available to them. And if that's the case, you don't even need to have a website. People will click on the product, they will complete that checkout process directly through Google, and then away you go. That's where you don't need a website. And then the third option is if you want people to actually pay for the product at your local store. And I think that one's probably pretty obvious there as well. The good news is you can change those checkout options whenever you want to, kind of depending on how your business grows, or if your business kind of ebbs and flows, just kind of depending on what's going on in the world that's going around. So the next thing that we're going to talk about here is the next piece of information that you need to do to link your Merchant Center to whatever third-party platform it is that you are using. And that simply completes that process. Now, as I mentioned a couple of times, Shopify is one option. And Oswald, I see that the question that you asked here, is this webinar just focused on selling products in Google? That we're going to be focusing a lot on that towards the end of today's presentation. I'm going to touch a little bit on Shopify as well, simply because that's one of the most common tools that a lot of people are familiar with. But for the majority of our content here, we are talking about the free resources that Google has to offer. So when it comes to linking your Merchant Center to the different tools that you have, this is something that you would do within the Google Merchant Center. This gives you great ways to integrate your Shopify accounts, if you have one, or your Squarespace account to your Merchant Center. What happens then is the Merchant Center then kind of flows into the products that you have on the Merchant Center, flow into whatever tool you use to have your online resources. So if you're in the Merchant Center, it will kind of walk you through the process of completing your setup. There's a navigation pane on the left that tells you this is where you have all of your products. There is also a performance charts, so you can see different reports, so you can know how your products are doing. And then it also has growth section where you can get access to suggestions for how you can improve your product visibility and drive even more sales. So that's some of the things that you can find in the back end of the Google Merchant Center. Now, if you have selected the checkout options of on your website or at your local store, you do need to verify for Google that either your website exists or your local store exists. And there are a couple of different ways that you can do that. If you are currently using Google Analytics on your website, you can use that to kind of link your website together because Google will have already verified that your website exists. You can add a quick little file to your website, an HTML file, and the Merchant Center will walk you through how to do that. If you use Shopify for your e-commerce center, it will merge automatically. So that's one good thing to keep in mind also. Now, once you have set up the Merchant Center, the next thing that you need to do is to add your products. And you would start this by clicking on products in the left navigation screen. And then you would click on the button to add either products one at a time, or if you have a lot of products, you can upload them in one particular file called a product feed. Now, I'm going to pause here for just a second. I know I'm giving you all a lot of information. And for those of you that haven't experienced any of this before, I know it can feel almost a little bit overwhelming to think, oh my gosh, what all do I need to be doing? Don't worry about that. Just kind of let this information wash over you. Again, Jackie had said that she's going to make the video of today's webinar available to you. At the end of the webinar, I'm going to share with you some more training resources where you can get more information. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed if this is new to some of you. Just know that this is a huge opportunity that when you are ready for this, you can really increase your online sales by making your products much more available on Google. So if you add an individual product, that's fairly straightforward. You would say, this is a particular pen that I have to sell. This is the title of the pen. It's a it's a black ballpoint pen. I would have a link to where can people get the pen if it's available on my website. And then the price. This pen is, I don't know how much it costs, $3.99, we'll say. That information obviously is required. There are a lot of optional fields. There is something that are called variants. So this particular ballpoint pen comes in black, but I might also have it available in blue, red, and green. So it's really just one item that has 4 variants: black, blue, red, and green. So that's something, the word variants is something that you should get to know, because anytime you have products that you sell online, whether you're using Shopify or Squarespace or any other online merchant center, they will always ask you for variant information. So that's basically just what it means. So you can add products one by one, or you can add like all of the products in the variants all kind of in one batch. But the easiest way to do it, if you have a lot of products, is by doing something called a product feed. And that's basically a spreadsheet where you have all of the details of all of your products and you upload it straight to the Merchant Center, and then it gets broadcasted out to all the different places you have available on Google. So the product feed is something that the Merchant Center will actually kind of walk you through the process of creating that if you have not already created one. If you already have a retail store and you have some type of point of sale business or point of sale tool, you probably already have your products in some type of spreadsheet. With Google, it will give you the process of downloading an example product feed that you can fill out with your product information. Like I said, if you already have them in some type of point of sale tool, you may be able to either merge that tool directly to your Google Merchant Center or export the information into a spreadsheet and be sure that it's in the format that the Google Merchant Center needs. So the first thing that you will do is you'll give the product feed a name. Now, I know that that sounds pretty obvious, but when you're first just getting started, you're probably only going to have your first product feed. These are the products that I have available for the month of January, let's say. But over the course of time, you're going to have your winter products that are available from January until March, and then you'll have your spring products. Maybe you'll have sale products. And over the course of time, you will have different product feeds as your product assortment kind of changes over the course of time. Just know that if you're just getting started, one of the easiest ways to do this is by using Google Sheets, which is Google's version of spreadsheet tool. It works really well with the Google Merchant Center, and you can actually click on a link in the Merchant Center that will give you the template for what that particular sheet would look like. If you already have an existing spreadsheet, you can upload that one if you want to. Now, here's an example of what the product feed could look like with the Google. This is the Google template that's available through Google Sheets. There is a link in the Merchant Center that kind of walks you through the process of downloading this and putting the information on there. You do want to be sure that you do read the information and the instructions on how to create this, because certain pieces of information do need to be in certain columns on the feed. The name of the product needs to be in the name column. The price of the product needs to be in the price column because you don't want to get those things mixed up. The detail on this slide highlights some of the columns that are on the spreadsheet. Again, you don't need to use all of them, but you do need to be sure that there are things like availability. And that's simply because you need to let people know if the product is in stock, out of stock, or is this something that maybe they need to pre-order because you're going to have it available in a couple of weeks. I know that might sound a little bit technical, but remember, you're basically just documenting the information, all of the details about the different products that it is that you have to sell. Now, once that Merchant Center is set up, your products can appear in a whole host of different places on Google that we've already talked about. And that's Google Search, Google Images, Google Shopping, that's that tab that we talked about. If you have shopping ads, they can show up there. And then your products can also show up in experimental new places like Google Lens that I just talked about. And then, of course, everything that I've talked about except for the ads, those are all free for you to use. Shopping ads are not free. Again, I would much rather talk about free things than things that are not free. So I'm not going to focus a whole lot on shopping ads in today's webinar. So that's how you can use the Google Merchant Center to set up your products so that way they can be discovered by your ideal future customer who is looking for things to buy that you have to sell. Again, all of that works whether you have an online official e-commerce store or if you just want to let people in your local community know, hey, come and visit my physical store and you can buy these products from me here. That's a great way to let people know where they can buy your products. Now I'm going to talk really briefly about Shopify, which is just one example of a variety of different types of really good quality e-commerce stores that are available. One of the things that's important to understand is today, offline retailers are moving online super fast. Part of that is because of this crazy COVID world that we've been through, where all of a sudden consumers, as I mentioned before, are so much more willing to make buying decisions online. But also, some of the online e-commerce tools are so much easier to use than they were even just a couple of years ago. Now, again, I'm going to use an example here of a spice retail store who does have a website that is built in Shopify. And what's great about Shopify is if you have those physical products, you can create, Shopify says fairly easily, you can create a personalized e-commerce website. Now, the one thing that's good to know is the pages look super professional. All of the good, reputable online e-commerce tools, whether it's Shopify or Squarespace, those usually are pretty easy to use because they've got really great looking templates. There are other website development tools like Wix or Weebly that also have e-commerce functionality on them. Unless you're a graphic designer or unless you are a website developer, I would stick with one of the tools that has good templates, because what you don't want to do is create a website that either doesn't look very good or doesn't work very well. And so I do recommend that you use one of the big reputable tools so that way you know that your website is going to look good and it's going to work well. Now, what's interesting about Shopify is those sites, according to Shopify, are designed to convert at the highest possible rate, meaning that theoretically, they can really help you generate some new sales. Having said all that, you do need to do your part in being sure that your Shopify site is set up properly and you are promoting it as well. If you want to get started with Shopify, you can create a free 14-day trial account simply by typing in your email address. I will let you know that Shopify, last time I checked, their price was started at $29 a month after that. So, Shopify says, oh, get started for free. Sure, you can get started for free, but if you want to actually do anything with it, you do need to pay them. I know sometimes people are reluctant to pay for an online tool. Just be sure that you are spending your time and your money wisely. You might be better off paying a little bit for an online store so you can generate a lot more in sales. Just kind of keep that in mind. So when it comes to adding your products to any of these online e-commerce tools, for the most part, they're going to be fairly easy. That is, if you use a tool that is designed to sell products. There are other ways that you can have links on whatever type of website you have that has information about products. Maybe people can pay you through PayPal or something like that. You can kind of cobble it together yourself if you want to, although sometimes it is just a little bit more complicated for your part and a little bit complicated for your customers as well, which is why you probably are going to serve yourself better if you do use an official e-commerce website. Typically, the products are fairly easy to add. They can be in e-commerce websites, either a physical product or a digital product. For those of you that have a business profile on Google, you cannot sell digital products on that. It can only be physical products. If you're using an e-commerce tool, you can have a variety of variants. Remember, those are like different colors of the pen or different sizes of the t-shirt. They also can help you track your inventory so that way you don't accidentally sell products that you don't have any of. Nobody wants to do that. And then they can help you organize your products in a way that makes sense to your ideal future customer. When it comes to adding your products on any of these e-commerce sites, remember, I talked a couple of minutes ago about how you can put products into the Google Merchant Center. With some of these sites, you can go ahead and link the site to your Merchant Center. With other sites, you can just go ahead and add the products directly in the site at first within that tool too. Again, you're always still going to have to give the product a name. You're going to have a description. You're going to have a price and that type of thing. You do want to be sure that you're filling out as much description about the products as you possibly can. Oftentimes, I'll see people that have local businesses or they'll have their online website, and they may just have a picture of a product and a price, which is obviously you need to know the price, but they don't really do themselves any favor by not getting into a description. And that's because Google, if people are searching for, as we talked about, blue ballpoint pen or whatever it is that people are searching for, blue t-shirts, if you have more information in the description, there's a bigger likelihood that Google is going to offer that product to somebody. Someone's going to click on it and somebody is going to buy it. So be sure that you're building out that description as much as you possibly can. So typically with those e-commerce sites, you can either build the product description in the site, or you can put that information into a product feed through the Google Merchant Center. So how do you connect these two things together? Once you are in kind of the back end of whatever tool that is that you're using for your website, there is going to be something on there called like sales channels. And this is an example, again, of Shopify, simply because that's one that so many people have at least heard about. So what you would do is you would go into the back end of your accounts, look for sales channels, and then click on that, and then click on the plus sign, and then that will allow you to connect it to your Google Merchant account. When you add the Google Merchant account as a sales channel, what it does is it syncs in real time with your Shopify account. So if somebody buys a product from your Shopify store, and you also have products that are available in person in your physical store, as long as you're managing all that through your Merchant Center, you're not going to end up people buying all the products online and all of a sudden realizing that if people are trying to buy them in their store, it won't be available. So it's really nice to be sure that these two things really sync together across all the channels where you sell your products. Again, to set up that, you need to be in your Google business accounts, your Google profile accounts. And once you're in there, you would simply type in your email address. As long as it syncs with your Shopify account, it all kind of happens sort of automatically. That's the best case scenario. Once your store requirements are met, that's then when that product sync happens. Click Get Started, and then it just goes ahead and syncs automatically for you. The next thing that will happen is if you don't have a Merchant Center account yet, it will take you to a place where you can go ahead and create your Merchant Center accounts if you haven't done that previously. This is important to be sure you do have the Merchant Center account synced with whatever tool it is that you're using to have your e-commerce store online. Now, I'm going to pause here because I know that a lot of this information, as I said, it can feel a little bit overwhelming. Keep in mind, this is a great quote. You don't have to be good to start, but you have to start to be good. So even if it feels confusing, at least go ahead and give it a try. If you set up your Merchant Center accounts, you can get, even if it's just a handful of products out there on Google search for free, you may find that you generate some additional sales this holiday season. If you don't try it though, you're not going to generate any extra holiday sales. So definitely give that a try. I don't want you to feel too overwhelmed. Now I am starting to wind down a little bit more. So if there are questions that you all have, this is a great time to put them into the chat, because what I'm going to do now is share with you some additional resources. One tool that if you already have a website where you sell products that you might want to check out is called the Grow My Store tool. This is a free tool that Google has to offer, and you can find this at g.co/growmystore. And what you will do is type in your website URL. Google will scan through it and give you some recommendations to what you can do to improve your online store. That's a great resource. It goes through a couple of different factors, including your product information, your store details, how personalized is it, how does your website perform. If you already have an online presence, this is a great tool for you to use to kind of sharpen it up, to get it ready for, if not the holiday season, because we're already kind of in the middle of the holiday season, certainly get it ready for 2022. Another great tool is called the Local Opportunity Finder. This is a great tool that can help you improve your presence on Google Search and Maps with your business profile. You can find this at g.co/local opportunity finder. It's got a lot of information on here. What it will do is it will scroll through your business profile and give you some recommendations to what you can do to improve that. So that's another great tool that I do want to recommend to you all. And then finally, if you ever have questions about anything that Google has to offer for small businesses, you can always find it at the Grow with Google website. And that is simply google.com/grow. That's the team that I am the presenter for. And that is also the organization that the Jacksonville Women's Business Center is a partner with. And so I just wanted to be sure that you know that that's always where you can get all kinds of information that Google has to offer. And that takes me to the end of our conversation here today. I wanted to just kind of see if you all have any more questions. And okay, I see Darnella just asked, do I need a physical store to set up the Google store? If you're talking about the Google profile that shows up on Google search and maps, you need a physical store for that. But if you want to sell your products online to random people that are searching for random information, if they want to find out where can I buy this black ballpoint pen, you do not need a physical store to do that. The only time that you do need that physical store is for the Google business profile. So hopefully that answers that particular question. All righty, so I'm just kind of flip through and see if there's any other questions here. Let's see. All right, Jackie, I think I got through most of the questions. So at this point, I'll go ahead and turn things back over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pamela. Thank you all for being here today. We also wanted to let you know that we are going to continue the Grow with Google series next year. So there'll be more information to come with that. We will host this session recorded on our YouTube channel. I do have to let you kind of plug here right now and let you know that as of earlier this year, before we started really diving into the series of Grow with Google, I myself did a nice search of the Jacksonville Women's Business Center, noticed that we did not claim our page. We had not looked at any of these resources and tools. Now we're starting to track those analytics, and it's been amazing to see, kind of where these people are coming from, how many people can engage with us. So I do recommend, taking this information and, at least taking one little nugget out and trying to practice. Like Pamela said, put the image out there, put the product in the corner. These really do work, and it helps to grow the awareness of your company. So it's really worked for us, and I'm excited to share that with everybody. So if anybody has any questions, feel free, as we mentioned, you can raise your hand, we can unmute you if you want to ask a question live or put into the chat. I do want to mention some other activities, workshops that the Women's Business Center will be doing in the new year. We will be hosting a customer development workshop series in January. In February, we kick off our quarterly business forum with the SBA. The topic will be coming out very shortly for that, as well as we have our Financial Matters program. Customer development and Financial Matters are a part of our core suite of programs, and those also help you get your entrepreneur certificate with our Women's Business Center. So that information can be found on our website, jaxwbc.com. We will be able to share Pamela's contact information and the presentation, not just the recording, but we'll share the presentation so you have those images, some of the links that were described for you to be able to access. With that, I'll hang out for just a little bit, see if anybody has anything else. I know that we're running just a little early today, but I hope you get that time back to spend with your family, do some holiday shopping, or boasting your business out there. And again, thank you all for being here with us. Let's see. Okay, I have a question about WOSB certification and WeBank. So WOSB stands for the Women-Owned Small Business Certification. It says, I've spent 3 days uploading documents to WeBank, but I'm left wondering if it's even worth it. What are the real advantages of these certifications? That's a great question. So those certifications, one thing that really, really helps you for is that government contracting. If you want to go bid out for a contract, you're going to need to be certified. You don't need to be certified as a women-owned small business. What it does for you is it puts set-asides. So the government actually sets aside a number of contracts, and organizations do this as well, and they bid them only to women-owned small businesses. We have another certification under the SBA, and that website to look at that information is certified.sba.gov. There is an economically disadvantaged certification for women-owned small businesses as well. Stephanie, I'm going to get with you offline about the WeBank. We have a North Florida representative here that I can connect you with and see if they can troubleshoot some of that, some of those issues with you. But I will say that there's huge benefits, especially with somebody who has a product, to be able to get certified. It can change the way you do business. I have another question here. So thanks for the overview. Will the next Google series focus on in-depth overview of tools and functions mentioned? So yeah, Pamela?
Yeah, sure. We're not going to go super deep into all of these tools. The other webinars that actually we're working on for the new year, I do have one that we go in depth into the business profile, and that's what helps you show up on Google Search and Maps. So we'll let you know when that one is available for you. The other presentations that we do are an introduction to Google Ads. So if that's one that you're interested in, be sure that you let Jackie and or me know. And then other ones that we have are introductions to Google Analytics, as well as how you can reach customers online with Google Search and Maps. We do ones on YouTube as well. So if there are topics that you are specifically interested in, let Jackie know, let me know, and we will do our utmost to bring those trainings to you.
Awesome. We do have some of the previous. I will share too that once you get the recording of this and you see the YouTube channel that we have some of the previous webinars that we were able to host over the summer with the other Florida Women's Business Centers. So you can go back and look at some of that stuff. I think the biggest benefit out of watching some of this live is that if you have a question and something comes to mind, you've got the right person there at the time to be able to answer and troubleshoot that with you. So there's a lot to be said about being live, if you will. I will mention to those of you who are still hanging out with us, I wanted to make sure that if you weren't here in the beginning, that you can share your business name, a link to your website, so we can help each other do business this holiday season and promote each other. I will be able to save this chat as well, so I can send that out, make sure everybody has that information.
Well, that's it for me, Jackie.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Pamela. We really appreciate you and your time and everything that you're able to offer with us. Another really cool thing was we were one of the first people that were able to provide this e-commerce webinar. This is a new one for Grow with Google. So that was very exciting for us as well. And thank you, Pamela, for giving us that opportunity. It's great. All right, everybody. Well, have a wonderful holiday season and take care.
All right, bye, everybody.